I think the Washington Post and the New York Times, I may be giving them too much credit, are more powerful than all three branches of government. Because government speaks through them. Big tech prefers them in their algorithms. Big tech doesn't do any journalism. They just prefer, what do you think?
Wait, did Bezos...
Is no one going to push on that? You think three media outlets are more powerful than the U.S. government? Is no one else gonna let that one sit there and okay?
Investigating, was it a story about Biden's daughter?
Ashley Biden's diary. A source, and by the way, most people don't know that Ashley Biden has a daughter named Ashley. And there was a diary.
Joe Biden has a daughter named Ashley.
Joe Biden has a daughter named Ashley, and a source sent us this document, this diary, and we looked into it. I made the decision not to publish it because I couldn't verify with 100% certainty that it was hers. I was like 99 or whatever percent, but I wasn't 100%. And even if I could verify that it was Ashley Biden's diary, I couldn't verify what she wrote in the diary happened. Right. She talked about having inappropriate showers with her dad.
Whoa.
Does that mean that she's...
Wow.
Yikes.
Okay. To be perfectly transparent and honest, did not see it going this way. I had no idea about this. This is the first I had heard this was going to be the angle. I do recall, though, that Glenn Greenwald, oh sorry, I mispronounced it, Glenwald, had come out in the defense of James O'Keefe. Freudian slip. I can't even remember his name anymore. Had come out in the defense of James and said that like this is really scary. It's a precedent, if you will. If they start arresting journalists, if the FBI, if the government starts investigating journalists, who knows who will come forward next? You may not like his work, but regardless, if he's a controversial figure or not, you have to understand that as a journalist, it's important that we protect every single one of them. And I was like, but he's not. You understand? He's a scam artist. He's a provocateur. He sets up the conditions for his own kind of like stunts. He's a professional troll. It's what he's been doing his whole life. Like one of his very early troll jobs was in his own school trying to get everyone outraged about Lucky Charms because he said it was racist against like Irish people or something, and they believed it. And then all of a sudden they wanted to ban Lucky Charms at the school. And that was like his whole like gotcha, like, you know, like that was journalism. And he hasn't really changed since then. He's been caught so many times falsifying and fabricating information, paying people off to give them testimonies. He's one of like, he is an enemy of the press. He makes the work of actual journalists more difficult by he himself calling himself a journalist on a regular basis. So that's why platforming him and treating him like he's an actual journalist is very, very dangerous. On top of which, trying to say that this FBI raid is like an attack on freedom of the press is also, like, using him as an example, kind of dangerous as well.
What does that mean? And I felt like, you know, and by the way, this is the crazy part about this Twilight Zone dystopian series of events. Someone sends me something, I try to corroborate it, I'm unable to, and I say, well, let me try to give this back to her. She wouldn't take it, so I give it to law enforcement. What more could a responsible, ethical journalist, let alone human being, do?
See that thing I was just talking about? Where, you know, if he calls himself by the same name that actual journalists call themselves and start saying things. Like, it's weird. He says it as if he's a character in a TV show or something. Like, what would an ethical journalist actually do, Bill? I don't know. I've always wondered that. None of us truly are ethical, are we? Except for me.
And that's the scary part. What ought I have done?
Yeah.
What should I have done? But then they raid me. And people come to my home at 6 a.m. I'm not a morning person. My first thought when they open up, my
fascist government.
first thought was, sorry to bang on the table, but I'm a show person, is how much time do I have until...
Okay, could you imagine if Hassan did the Hassan smash and then afterwards he was like,
that's why I want the globalists to know.
Holy shit. Hey, you want to hear about a mighty smash? Smash. I just smashed so hard that I made the Stream Deck fix itself and play the Alex Jones clip out of nowhere. So.
That's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first.
That is a true smash. But yeah, if he had done that and afterwards was like, hey, by the way, I mean, I'm a showman. Just doing that as a show here, everybody. You know, Destiny, everyone. Yeah, I'm a showman. But you're a fucking liar, dude. Fucking Weasley little liar, dude. Holy shit, dude.
They break the door down. And I'm waking up, I'm pounding, I'm waking up, and I'm thinking, okay, let me run to the door, like in my underwear. And then I go to open the door, and then before I turn the door, I was like, are they going to shoot me?
In your
Like, how do I
underwear,
do
too.
this in a way where I don't get killed? And I opened the door, and there's all these bright lights, and they put me in handcuffs.
Were
And I
you
think-
in your underwear?
Yes. I mean, I just woken up.
Yeah.
And then they throw me against the hallway wall outside my apartment. My neighbors are, I mean, this is, I think I'm under arrest, but for what? What have I done?
Did they actually arrest you and take you?
They put me in handcuffs, and then eventually they showed me a search warrant.
Wow.
On the search warrant, it listed, I'm not making this shit up, accessory after the fact and misprison of a felony. Accessory after the fact. These are they haven't been charged with anything, but these are absurd insinuations of a crime. Again, if it's a crime to be sent a document which may or may not be stolen, then you might as well jail all the journalists.
Okay, so here's the timeline that we have, as I understand it. James O'Keefe is sent a document. He perhaps has an anonymous source. We don't know if they were anonymous or not. The document cannot be verified about whether or not it is real, but he's going to go along with the idea that it is. And the document in question is a entry into a diary of President Biden's daughter, and now in which he's implying that perhaps the president was showering with his daughter in some kind of a strange, disgusting, incestuous act, and saying that out loud on Tim Pool's show to an audience of hundreds of thousands of people at this point who have now just heard it said out loud. That's as far as I've caught up. Anyways, if you're missing out on the story, and this is the same person who was raided by the FBI, by the way. And now they're trying to say that he's a journalist, has to be protected.
in America.
So there was a theory, James, what was happening here. I mean, obviously you made the right moves. You went to the authorities. You weren't sure, so you didn't publish. You did everything right here, but they still decided to raid you. And people are theorizing that they did this because there could have been federal agents that were the ones that originally sent you this diary to kind of set you up to get an excuse to get into your electronic devices because they knew potentially someone else was reaching out to you for a bigger story that they needed to stop. That's one of the theories out there. Do you think that's true? Because every step of the way here, the feds acted incorrectly.
I don't want to speculate. I don't want to. That is a theory. Is it a pretext? Is it a form of intimidation? I mean,
I know we all wear masks in a way, in that, like, you may act a little bit more, I don't know, grandiose for the camera when the camera comes on. Like, everyone likes to brag. Everybody loves to brag if they're like a streamer or an internet personality. Like, I'm actually the same person in real life. If you met me in real life, you'd see there's no difference between what you see on the camera and what you see in person. 100% the same thing. And then I'll say, like, yeah, for the most part, I think some people are pretty similar, but like, there's just like a psychological effect that happens when a camera turns on. It kind of changes the way in which you interact and act, and you may become, if you're self-aware that you're being filmed, you may act a little bit differently. I'll just say that much. But then for James O'Keefe, it's just straight up like, well, I don't want to speculate about whether or not I was in fact being approached by a uncouth actor, one might say. Like, there's no way. If he acts like this in real life all the time, that's got to be exhausting. I can't imagine trying to be, like, basically trying to act like you have a 10-foot pole up your ass in terms of, like, at all times, like, I am, of course, one of the most important journalists of all time, and now watch me moonwalk.
even the New York Times reporter Mike Schmidt was like stumbling and bumbling and fumbling on MSNBC when asked, well, would they really raid the home if it wasn't actually Biden's? A diary? A diary?
Well, so
it's just so crazy. There's no answers.
does that authenticate the diary then?
I would think so.
And that then implicates, well, then you've got witness corroboration if the diary is true about inappropriate behaviors with children from President Joe Biden.
It wouldn't be the first time there have been these insinuations.
I've seen the videos.
Either. The persistent
Right.
sniffing.
James, I do want to say that I think you
okay.
made the right decision in passing
Whoa,
up
whoa,
on,
whoa! What is going on? It's a twist? What? I didn't know he was in the audience. Andy Ngo. Hello. How are you, Andy Ngo? Or is this the audience, or is this just like some new kind of setup? I noticed there's like other chairs. Is Andy Ngo the guest, or is he just like an extra commentator? What, man, that one came out of left field. Was not expecting that. Well done, though.
Pause it.
I'll say.
The contents of the diary when you were originally in possession of it. What I tell young journalists and new journalists is that if you cannot 100% verify something, you don't report it out.
Correct.
You know?
Fucking bullshit, Andy Ngo. You do that all the time. Oh my god, that has to be one of the biggest self-reports that I have seen in quite some time. Oh, that is so unbelievably rich, Andy Ngo.
Even on that 1% of doubt, and that means often you miss out.
1% of doubt.
Groups that end up being
1% of doubt.
People pick up, and it's unfortunate and it's disappointing when that happens. But
I wish the New York Times had your standards. I wish CNN and MSNBC had, because they'll just say like, you know.
Okay, so not too long ago, I thought they were on the outs because if you don't know, Tim Pool, like there was a charting of all Tim Pool sources. What are the things that Tim Pool references the most? And you can look at them all. And Andy Ngo, I believe, was 3rd or 4th in his most cited source. So he uses Andy Ngo all the time. Number 1 was Daily Mail, and then number 3 or 4 was Andy Ngo. And then for a while, they were frenzies, and then Andy Ngo had that incident where he was pretending to be Antifa, where he had dressed up in like, well, he claims he wasn't pretending, but I think he dressed up in like, a black shirt or a black hoodie or something, and then he was being chased by a bunch of protesters, and then he had to run into a hotel to try and escape from them, and Tim Pool got really mad at that incident, because Tim Pool was like, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in harm's way? And I was like, that's kind of what Andy Ngo does. He's one of those kind of like TMZ reporters, like the ones who hold a camera and then like put it right in your face and then like, oh my god, the person threw a milkshake at me, like, can you believe this? And now I'm gonna go report them kind of people.
Source says, I love when they'll say like a source close to Donald Trump's
People familiar with the matter.
People familiar with Trump's thinking have said he wants to beat children or some insane nonsense.
The New York Times, Andy, the New York Times did a story about they published the attorney-client memos, and a judge in New York has done the extraordinary act of telling them to sequester those attorney-client memos. And the New York Times wrote a headline that said, "Documents show how far deceptive reporting practices could go before running afoul of federal laws." Do you know another way to say that? We checked with lawyers to make sure everything we were doing was legal. But do you see how they worded it? It's not so much that they lie, it's that they use this sort of, you have to like twist the newspaper article a little bit to know what they're saying. They don't say what's false, they omit. And
well, so that statement's true, right? But it's framing.
It's framing it in a
False
nefarious. It sounds like we skirted the law, and that's the scariest part about this whole ordeal, because it was a little terrifying. Is that what was I supposed to do? You think, hindsight, right? What more could we have done? We even contacted the Biden campaign and tried to ask for comment, but the New York Times framed that as leverage.
Okay, hold on. I remember Chad Loader had something. They usually have really good coverage of Andy Ngo. Like, they're usually on point for trying to expose a lot of his lies. Not all Ahmaud Arbery's killers have been found guilty of felony murder. Remember that Arbery was falsely smeared by Andy Ngo. Mr. Andy Ngo routinely smears black murder victims. Ngo called George Floyd a late porn star and falsely claimed that Floyd died of an overdose. Andy Ngo. Regarding the 2020 killing of Arbery, officials say there's a video of him burglarizing a home immediately preceding the chase and the confrontation. The former prosecutor says the video also allegedly shows him attacking Travis McMichael and trying to grab his gun. Nope. But what about that standard, Andy Ngo? I thought it was that, like, if you even had 1% of a doubt that you shouldn't post something that would be falsifiable. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, homeowner says no crime was committed at under construction home Ahmaud Arbery may have visited before shooting. The owner of the home under construction in the Georgia neighborhood where Ahmaud Arbery was killed says he has reported no crime after surveillance video seemed to show the young man was on the property. The February 23rd footage captured moments before Arbery's death appears to show him looking around but never touched anything and eventually walked away. Good job, Andy Ngo. 1%.
We tried to leverage the diary. And then Rachel Maddow said, we tried to extort the president. So a request for comment becomes leverage, becomes extortion. Yep. Do you see how the game is played? And it's very terrifying at times.
I will say too, not to derail too much, but CNN's ratings are down 90%. They're in the key demo. They barely get viewers at all. It's probably just hotel lobbies. So I don't know if that's any consolation. It's probably not. But when Rachel Maddow talks and these stories break, I don't know if it's going to matter in 5 or 10 years because they're losing.
Yes, but when you have a dying animal, they usually act the most violent right before they die.
Well, and that's what they're doing. They're giving up all of their standards.
Yes, and then when we look at the state, it is in a place that's extremely vulnerable. The official story, the official
The media is the virus. Okay, bro.
narrative that they told us for 2 years now is breaking, shattering right in front of our face, and then people are realizing, hey, we were lied to.
I was just told so many times the media was the virus. And then, of course, I also caught the virus, which in many ways acted like a virus.
Throughout recorded human history, whenever there's pandemics, usually it leads to civil unrest. So there's a big probability that this is going to happen here. And I think they're trying to hit the mole with the hammer as much as they can. There's a lot of moles popping up, but I think there's a lot of anger by the state.
Within minutes, the handcuffs were still, my wrists were still sore. Within minutes of this happening, I got a text message from Mike Schmidt at the New York Times, national security reporter. How the hell does he know the contents of a secret grand jury subpoena? And why the hell are they leading me to the execution chamber? I am on the same team as these people. We are supposed to be speaking without fear or favor, which was the quote from Adolf All.
Absolutely no hyperbole in his words, by the way. He's not making flamboyant statements or anything like that. He was being marched off to the execution.
Or whatever his
in
name
Roblox,
was, the
in
founder
Roblox.
of the New York Times.
I'll just mention Project Veritas had one of the most important one of the most important stories probably of our generation, the ABC Amy Rohrbeck story with Epstein, which contributed to this major investigation, which ultimately I think the Maxwell case is kind of being covered up. We can get into that stuff, but Veritas, that's not partisan. When you report on the story saying, this is a journalist saying, I had the interview, I had the story, and it didn't get out, that was exposing powerful establishment elites covering up a very serious scandal as an understatement.
That's right.
But why is the New York Times going after you? It's not just the New York Times. I mean, it is all of these news outlets that falsely frame everything about Veritas.
Yeah, why would they lie about Veritas? Sorry, I have to answer this question. Ruffle says, I find it hilarious how many people on Reddit seem to feel their... Oh, stop talking for 2 seconds. Seem to feel they're owed free food and housing by some higher power, but they'll still upvote anyone who says, I want free stuff. I like how you can say that you want free food and housing, and then turn around and say that you don't want people to have free things. Like, what the fuck? I'm not giving you free food and housing. I'm not giving you free shit. I'm not giving you free things because you're a dick. Every single one of them is a dick. Well, by higher power, it's Jesus. We believe that we are deserved and blessed upon all things. We should be given things from on high. And he will. He will. Not your flying spaghetti monster. No. We have the power of Jesus over here.
To harm you.
Oh, we actually have a sound for that. Hold on.
And you keep saying, but my kids need food. And now inflation is here, and there's food shortages, and your kids aren't eating. And the schools are indoctrinating your kids.
God damn.
You're doing stories about, powerful corporations.
And it's also
journalists
social
should be on
media.
your side.
And it's also all the social media companies
Right.
have come after you, and they recently pulled one of your employees off as well.
Eric Sprackman
Yeah,
was standing in
Eric,
the room with
exactly.
me. Although I will say, and I want Andy to get in here, but we've trended on Twitter almost every story we've done.
That's correct.
Story we did last week on the Pentagon Papers, Department of Defense documents, which effectively are Pentagon Papers, trended #1 on Twitter. I'm banned on Twitter. Project Veritas is banned on Twitter. But what do you think, Andy?
Well, it's not a side detail that
It's still so weird, Andy. No, keeps popping. What? Okay, take it away, Andy. Here we go. Wow, what a collection! And Tim Pool definitely not on the right, too alt-right apparently, because now we've got Andy Ngo on the show. God damn! Like, if someone was to ask me, hey, do you think Tim Pool directly collaborates with far-right organizations in the same way that maybe some other kind of pundits do on the internet? I would genuinely say no, I don't. He's either a useful idiot for platforming so many of them, and I'm talking about far-right to alt-right figures, or he thinks that by platforming them, perhaps he will elevate their voices in this upcoming Civil War dialogue that seems to be one of the key parts of the show.
an agent of the state is working with media organizations to be the first to break these stories that are extremely damaging, where you don't have to be charged with any crimes. It's the investigation and the reporting and media coverage on it that destroys reputations. And what happened to James here with how, while he still had marks on his hand from the handcuffs, that he's getting requests from the press for comment when nobody else knows about it. Obviously, agents of the state is working with the journalists and leaking information. Similarly, when Roger Stone was arrested and CNN had been tipped off with the helicopter, I think I just say, when you look at despotic regimes and tin pot democracies, like these are like characteristics of it.
No, go ahead.
I mean, this is disturbing, and it surprises.
Isn't Andy faking his accent? Well, there's no way of knowing for sure, right? I mean, you could accuse someone of perhaps crafting an accent because it's part of a persona they want to have. Maybe there's something to do with that. I'm not entirely sure. It is unusual that, of course, an American has an accent of that nature. But, of course, he does have his own particular story involving why he sounds British at times and then less British at other times. I'm not entirely sure why. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where Andy Ngo is going for this. Let me give him one more second.
That so much of the American public just kind of shrug their shoulders and, praise these media organizations. When
I'm thinking right now, with the state, colluding with these big media companies to cover up malfeasance and corruption. It sounds fascistic, and I just wish there was maybe some organization, maybe that was called like something opposed to fascism, like no fascism, or maybe anti-fascism. We'll call it Antifa for short, and they would.
Whoa, that one killed. It's like, I knew what the punchline was as soon as he started talking. I was like, I know where he's going with this, all right? I was like, but when it dropped, like everyone was, oh shit, Antifa, that's who you were talking about. Oh shit, oh man, no one saw that one coming. Tim, when you at this point, you got to rip the mic off and just like throw it at James. Fucking just huck it across the room, like fucking drop it.
Stand up to this kind of collusion between state and massive, powerful private enterprise. Yeah, where's that at? Where is the actual? And I know, obviously, we know what Antifa is, but I'm like, where's the actual opposition from activists to say, this is a bad thing? Now, that being said, I will stress, James, you did get defended by some of these institutions like the ACLU.
I did.
Because they crossed the line so far,
Yeah.
even the ACLU was like, well, I guess we have to say something.
One of the things that I hate to put it in left-right terms because increasingly this seems to be about good versus evil. And I don't necessarily think those lines are clear, but the left tends to overplay their hand. They tend to take it too far and it ends up biting them in the ass. That was a beautiful moment when Ben Smith at the New York Times, and if Ben is watching this, Ben Smith, media columnist, New York Times, defended me. He was the first person. This was a few days afterwards, and he says, journalists should not be cheerleading this. If you look at that tweet, he got ratioed hardcore. No, put that O'Keefe in jail. Yep. They don't care. They just want to jail their, and people who say lock her up and all that. Like, I feel like, are we so Manichaean that we need to jail people who disagree with us? No. But Ben,
I don't think you should be put in prison unless you've committed a crime that would warrant that. And if that's the case, if you were innocent of any crimes, then no, you shouldn't be in jail. I also don't think you should be running around calling yourself a journalist. And what you do journalism, because it's not. You're a scam artist. You pay people to say stories. Like you invent stories yourself, and then when you want to push a narrative, you will actually pay individuals to say things. Like that is fabricating information. That is not journalism. Again, you're just a pseudo-journalist scam artist, a grifter, as they say.
Ben defended me, and after Ben did, he gave all these other people the permission to do so. ACLU, Society, all these organizations. And by the way, Ben Smith is leaving the New York Times.
Why is he doing that?
Great question. And I can also report to you that there's kind of a schism inside the New York Times.
Well, it's not the first time. I mean, the major schism happened when Tom Cotton's op-ed ran, and it destroyed the op-ed section of the New York Times. Barry Weiss left.
That's right.
The whole newsroom got shaken up.
I know Twitch Classic is usually a little spicier than the Serfs TV, and now it's no mistake. No exception. We got two people arguing past each other about one doesn't want income tax, as far as I can understand, right? I think Limbo is supposed to be Limao, but Limbo, you guys are too weak to handle the truth. I'm amazed you haven't started deleting my comments. Limbo. Oh, maybe it means something else. Maybe something I'm not aware of. This is new slang for me. I'm sorry. I'm a boomer. All right. I don't get all the new words like limbo. But either way, shine on. Here was ACL's statement. Yeah, I was just about to pull that up, actually, but thank you. All right, let's get to the source here. The following is a statement from Brian House, senior staff attorney with the ACLU's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project, in response to the reports of an FBI raid on Project Veritas' founder, James O'Keefe. Project Veritas has engaged in disgraceful deceptions, and reasonable observers might not consider their activities to be journalism at all. Agreed. Nevertheless, this precedent set in this case could have serious consequences for press freedom, all right, unless the government had a good reason to believe that Project Veritas employees were directly involved in the criminal theft of a diary. It should not have subjected them to invasive searches and seizures. That's pretty much where I landed too. I was like, I don't want to silence Project Veritas in terms of like, I think he should be put into a jail or prison unless he's committed a crime. I don't think he should be put into jail for nothing. That, yes, I would agree. That is wrong. We urge the court to appoint a special master to ensure that law enforcement officers review only those materials that were lawfully seized and that are directly relevant to a legitimate criminal investigation. I wouldn't say this is like an outright praise. This is pretty much like you don't really engage in what could be considered journalism, but just nevertheless, a precedent shouldn't be set in terms of if you were involved with the criminal theft of someone's diary, then yes, maybe it warrants you being searched. If that wasn't the case and it was just someone who sent it to you and that was why you got searched, then yes, no, that sets a terrible precedent, if that's the case. And again, at this point, we do not know.
That was an insane thing that happened, that Tom Cotton saying that the federal government should intervene in cities and deal with the civil unrest that was happening. It broke the New York Times. It broke the New York Times.
And the editorial page editor, whose name escapes me, one we released on a deposition tape.
James Bennett.
James Bennett. I have a posse. I have my entourage here. We always.
Okay. The government is trying to decrease the deleterious effects of the recession. They're doing it by taxing businesses, at least in theory. It might make sense to tax a business and their earnings. But even then, what's the harm? Who are you talking to? Who do you think is on the other side of that argument? It might make sense to tax businesses and their earnings. But even then, what's the harm? Again, I don't know who you're trying to appeal with these enormous paragraph rants, but please keep going.
Travel with an entourage in Project Veritas. James Bennett was actually a pretty moderate guy.
Yeah, he wasn't, yeah.
And they made him out to be a devil. So I can report to you, because I have sources.
Anonymous sources?
Well, people I've covertly recorded I haven't released yet.
Who
have told me there is a schism there. But, Tim, that was a beautiful moment in my
journalism.
Life, watching people who hate us. I think there still is some principle. There still is some overlap between the left and right in our society.
I think it's probably a bit reductive or maybe simplistic, but there's two big camps when it comes to whatever's going on with the establishment.
Again, Raffle at the Serf CV. You can't just get rid of the central bank. Who are you talking to? Have you heard me talk about the central bank once during this stream? Have I brought that up? Have I been like, oh, I've really wanted to abolish the central banking system, but it's been a tough go at it. I just can't find a way to work. Who are you talking to? Are you just shouting, hoping something sticks? Have you been watching the show at all?
Manipulative for power and people who are blindly going along and maybe just scared. So there's probably a lot of people who saw what happened with the New York Times and Tom Cotton's op-ed, and they're like, I just want to get through this. The problem I have with these people, it was Clifton Duncan tweeted something, I'm probably going to screw it up, but he said that he's less concerned about those that are overtly engaged in malfeasance and evil, and he's more concerned about those who know what's going on but won't speak up.
I saw that too. I thought that was really fascinating and made a lot of sense.
He's right.
Muda Supreme. Oh, is that the same Muda Supreme, the mod from the Majority Report? Hey, we have the Majority Report's mod in chat. Good to see you. Friends of the Majority Report. They just ramble. We had to ban them in the MR chat. Okay, well, I'm fine with the rambling. They're not really breaking any of the rules. That's fine. But yeah, tell me more about the central banking system.
Well, the New York Times are also being kind of eaten up by hedge funds and the people who truly own them. I think this is why Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Times, because
Washington Post,
excuse me.
I was going to correct him, but they did.
People are understanding this quote by Lord Northcliffe when he said, quote, "News is what somebody somewhere wants
No, I'm
to
not a mod.
suppress.
Oh,
all the rest
well.
is advertising." These people are...
Deep Dish Bard. Oh, thank you. Thanks for gifting a sub to a non-mod of the Majority Report. Sorry, I misled you. It was just to get someone to gift you a sub. It's part of my own scam. I'm grifting as well. We all grift in our own ways. Mine are complex and have a couple extra moves and don't often work out.
buying advertising, they're buying PR, they're buying favors for themselves, literally trying to brainwash the American public so their agenda, their narrative will pass and clear no matter how absurd. They still push these ideas because these ideas are way more important than even the money that they put into these institutions that they're losing.
What's so fascinating about that, though, is so we're at the post-millennial. We, I kind of think of us as the antidote to fear, right? We're not corporate.
No, I would describe you as the originators of fear. Like, a lot of your reporting is to keep people very, very afraid, especially of racial issues. You are not, we're the antidote to fear. People feel more calm when they read the Post-Millennial on a regular basis. We have not tested that. We can't really ask people about it. They're usually screaming. But just believe us, please.
We're a small outlet. Andy and I run stories there all the time. And what's really interesting is that we're getting attacked. We get attacked by these activists who are saying that we are aligned with specific interests. And we're not. They're defending the big outlets, the big corporate media outlets that are aligned with specific interests. And here we are just like, covering news stories, covering what we think is interesting, trying to get the truth out there. And they attack us for doing that.
Well, Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post in 2013, and after Google and Facebook snatched up most of these advertising models, hedge funds like Alden Global Capital, everything's been consolidated. Newspapers are gone. Investigative journalism is gone. ABC News cut their whole investigative bureau, and Jeff Bezos, in an extraordinary admission of the power of narrative amplified through big tech, through his ownership of the Washington Post, said, quote, on a Medium post, "My ownership of the Post is something I will be most proud of when I'm 90 and reviewing my life." Not his Dr. Evil rocket ship company, not his not his Amazon company. No, his ownership of the Washington Post is his biggest achievement. And I found that really a amazing insight into the power of narrative. I think the Washington Post and the New York Times, I may be giving them too much credit, are more powerful than all three branches of government, because government speaks through them. Big tech prefers them in their algorithms. Big tech doesn't do any journalism. They just prefer. What do you think?
Wait, did Bezos?
Is no one going to push on that? You think three media outlets are more powerful than the U.S. government? Is no one else gonna let that one sit there and okay?
Bezos say that before he became a spaceman.
Yes.
With his wiener rocket? He's
Yeah.
not proud of his wiener rocket?
Yeah.
I mean,
So, although
that's
he was
surprising.
formulating that.
But just
Right.
one extra point here. It's not just hedge funds. It's not just Jeff Bezos. It's also Bill Gates that donates hundreds of millions of dollars to the corporate media. They don't need donations, but they willingly take it. And with that money, of course, comes the narrative that they push.
If you're one of the higher ups of these companies, and I've seen this firsthand, and you're looking at your bottom line, you don't care about the politics of the individual person writing stories. You just don't want to lose money. The guys who run the businesses don't care about news. When I was at that ABC News company, that ABC Fusion, their attitude at the higher level was, what are we going to get clicks on? So hire the people who write about the things you think will get clicks. The marketing guys then said, we got to do woke stuff. That's the way forward. Okay, then hire young woke people and tell them to write about what they care about. They didn't care if it was real. They didn't care. I was told, side with the audience, they said. Side with the audience. That means if there is a news story that is factual but would be offensive to the audience, we don't cover it. That's the modern, like I mentioned with the New York Times, or I should say, to quote, I think it was Batya Ungar Sargon, that the New York Times has found their audience. They've said, screw everybody else, and that's what they're going for. But that's what almost every organization does.
So they're not going to push
especially
back
right now. I don't care. I don't care who they
Okay.
are.
All right.
90% of all media outlets are like, we've got an audience, and we're going to cater to that audience.
And that's the inverse of what they ought to be doing.
Right.
There was a journalist named Clarence Jones, and he wrote about journalism, that journalistic publishers need to be like bosses with balls. They need to have integrity. At Veritas, we're a nonprofit. People say, what's your business model? We have 800,000 people give us money, sometimes $1, sometimes $10,000. But we choose the hardest stories, and we don't settle lawsuits because, and this is the real crux of this book, American Muckraker, secrecy, transparency. We don't settle lawsuits, Tim, because I don't fear people inspecting my operation. Please do depose me. I like being deposed. They don't like being deposed. Because when they enter a discovery process of litigation, you can see all the lies under oath.
Did you guys know that...
This is kind of like a swarmy pseudo-journalist equivalent of how like people pump themselves up in rap songs. Like, I am the best. I am number one. Project Veritas specializes in sting operations. Interesting. His investigations have thus far been exclusively focused on doing heavy slanted attack pieces against organizations or individuals considered to be liberal, the worst thing of all. Following the massive success of the Acorn videos, O'Keefe was arrested and charged with entering federal property under false pretenses for the purpose of committing a felony when he and his 3 associates dressed up as a phone company employee and lied their way into the New Orleans office of the Democratic Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu and began manipulating the telephone system. O'Keefe stated he hadn't intended to tap Landrieu's phone lines, but rather he was investigating whether or not they were broken. Oh, that's a story. I learned from a number of sources that Senator Landrieu's constituents were having trouble getting to their office to tell her that they didn't want to be taking millions of dollars in exchange for her vote on the healthcare bill. When asked about this, Senator Landrieu's explanation was that our lines had been jammed for weeks, so I decided to investigate why a representative of the people would be out of touch with their constituents for weeks because their phones were broken. In investigating the matter, we decided to visit the Senator Landrieu's district office, the People's Office, to ask their staff if the phones were working. His excuse was noted, however absurd. Does he really not know that jammed means busy, not broken? And O'Keefe pled guilty to the lesser charge of entering a federal building under false pretenses. In the wake of his arrest and sentencing, O'Keefe made a music video featuring his performance of an original song. The video, Landrieu Dance, also showcases a Landrieu impersonator. Undeterred, O'Keefe and his crew got back to work. Their next plot was to attempt to embarrass the news organization CNN by seducing one of the female star reporters, or something. It's not entirely clear what the end result would have been, because one of the Confederates became uncomfortable with the level of sleaze and told CNN ahead of time about the investigation. According to the planned document given to CNN, Izzy Santa, one of O'Keefe's Confederates, the plan was to meet up and attempt to seduce a female reporter and engage in, quote, kinky sex with her. After this, he would attempt to feed her a false politically charged story, and then after it aired, debunk it. He would also follow up by revealing the affair and denigrating her as someone who was only worried about sex and getting the easy political hot stories. The proposed script for the presentation video goes as follows. Instead of giving her a serious interview, I'm going to punk CNN. Abby has been trying to seduce me to use me, to spin a lie about me, so I'm going to seduce her on camera, to use her for a video. This bubble-headed bleach blonde who comes on at 5 will get a taste of her own medicine. She'll get seduced on camera, and then you'll get to see the awkwardness and the aftermath. The equipment list reads, Number 1, a condom jar. Number 2, dildos. It is kinky sex, and there's no sex kinkier than a dildo. Perhaps after missionary. Ooh la la. Music, Alicia Keys. Fucking kinky as fuck. 80s romance songs. Things that are typically James. Wait, things that are typically James? Like, oh, as in things that are James. All right, I get it. Yeah, James vibe. Not songs with the word James in it. Maybe. I don't know. Could be. He just wants music with songs with the word James in it. Anyways, avoid Marvin Gaye. Too cliche, Is that Marvin Gaye? No, I'm better than that. This is a song about James. Number 4, lube, because kinky sex. Number 5, ceiling mirror. Pretty kinky. Number 6, posters and paintings of naked women. Ooh, hey, baby, you want to get really kinky? Check out all these paintings of naked chicks I'm going to throw around the room. Playboys and pornographic magazines. I don't know. I was thinking of getting a little nuts. I brought a magazine. Yeah. If we go past the articles, we might get to the pictures. Yeah. Candles. Fuck. Degenerate. Fucking filth. What is this? This is getting just too X-rated. Viagra and stamina pills. I may actually go more than one time, baby. Yes. 2 times tonight. Fuzzy handcuffs. Oh my god. Disgusting. I don't know if this is going to be TOS. And a blindfold. Because again, kinky sex. Oh my. O'Keefe claims that while he liked the idea, he never considered it for a moment, and that Boudreaux was not going to have a foe seduced unless he wanted to be. In a statement, however, O'Keefe neglected to comment on an email obtained by CNN in which it asked an associate, Ben, you think I could get her on the boat? This is like the kind of shit you think of when you're, 16 and watching James Bond, maybe? Was he watching James Bond and listening to Michael Jackson albums and just being like, holy shit, one day I'm going to seduce a CNN reporter. Then I'm going to have kinky sex, the kind I've heard people talk about. During the New Hampshire GOP primary, O'Keefe and the company attempted to create another sting video highlighting the need for voter ID cards, a contentious issue amongst Americans, and voter fraud is near non-existent, but members of the GOP contend it is a significant issue. Several states have passed legislation requiring voter ID cards, effectively disenfranchising longtime voters, mostly elderly individuals who have not previously needed a form of identification. They've successfully acquired ballots of dead citizens. In doing so, his companions actually committed voter fraud. Oops. Oh, so he committed voter fraud when he was trying to expose voter fraud. That's shitty. Imagine a video that warns of the rampant problems of robbery and proves it by stealing someone's stereo. Oops. All right. Oh, okay. We got some weed, Lord, and then we can wrap this up. I think we've heard all we need to hear on this matter.
Amazingly respectful of what Trump did. I really respect that a lot.
Oh, he never.
He said he banned it. I mean,
100. Chat.
he was-
100%. He doesn't clean his asshole. No. And hey, come on. If the one piece of advice I can give every single one of you, clean your assholes, everybody. Okay? Clean your assholes and clean them thoroughly. And clean the rest. Just clean yourselves. Clean yourselves. If you want to be, talking to people that you are attracted to, doesn't matter what gender they are, doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter what you are trying to do or accomplish. It will be better if you are clean and if you smell nice, if your teeth are brushed, if your nails are trimmed. It doesn't matter how you present yourself. All that matters is that you are clean, because being around a person who's clean is going to be more preferable to someone else. Unless, of course, that was their kink. I do not know, James O'Keefe, if that's going to be in the list of things, but
A lot of Trump supporters didn't like that.
a lot of Trump supporters didn't like that, but he had 4 years of people saying that to him as the president. And I think he probably knows how much that sucks to be in charge of everything and have people keep saying FDT at you all the time.
Yeah, but he said this. He said this on the heels right after saying that it's hard to criticize Joe Biden because Joe Biden complimented him on all the work that he.
Oh shit, Winston, what is this? Caleb Maupin. Someone said to Caleb Maupin, it's ironic that Caleb Maupin took so much heat for his view on abolishing billionaires when most of the leftists who attacked him support or defend actual capitalist billionaires like Bill Gates and George Soros. Abolish capitalists, not growth. Yeah, I was simply defending historical materialism and the basis for the higher stage of communism. The synthetic left has the same pessimistic Malthusian outlook as Gates and Soros, so it fits in a way. Yes, if there's one thing the left does is it's worship George Soros and Bill Gates. They're our heroes. They're the true champions of communism. Not like you, Caleb, you faux communist. The leader of all of them is Elon Musk, by the way. Elon Musk is the one who controls us all, and we love him. All hail Elon.
Did with the vaccine.
But that's that's a different situation. I mean, and also let's not forget, Donald Trump was a president. He was holding executive office. Has there ever been a president who's really worthwhile? I mean, come on, this is.
I think they should be criticized to the full extent, but we shouldn't derail this conversation.
I agree too.
That's the point. I don't want to.
But I respect a former president.
Oh shit! Don't shit on Trump. That'll get you shut down real fast on the Tim Pool show.
To say who they're willing to criticize. How often does CNN run? Joe Biden has screwed this up, screwed that up, screwed this up. That
was pretty fast, eh? You see how immediately whoa, come on, it's not the time or place. Come on, what kind of show do you think we're running here? Look, let's just leave Trump out of this. No one brought up Trump.
Was it Trump's coverage was 98% negative? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of negative coverage about Joe Biden, and I think what happens is around August of last year when we saw this flip in approval rating. Like you were mentioning, once someone says something, it makes it okay for the establishment or for the whatever you want to call it, Democratic position for the most part. All of a sudden, people start ragging on Biden, and then we see some articles popping up where they're like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the media is unwilling to step out of line with their own audience.
And some of that's economics, and some of that is because there's been a proximity to their sources. They don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. And that's the difference between sort of the journalism that we're talking about in American Muckraker, and their journalism is to represent, to be the ombudsman for the so-called administrative state. Our whistleblowers release information the administrative state does not want revealed. That makes all the difference in the world. When a two-star general talks to the New York Times anonymously, we don't know the cadence or intonation of we don't know what that person is actually trying to say. And now they throw out these terms misinformation and disinformation. We've talked about the New York Times lawsuit that I'm embroiled in, which is fascinating because the New York Times admitted, Tim, in the response to our defamation lawsuit, they got the facts wrong and they still haven't corrected the article. They admitted in court, they got it wrong. The guy had more than 3 ballots. They said it wasn't illegal. They admitted in court it was, and the article remains online uncorrected.
Have there been
And you're-
have there been any fact checkers on this one? Has the New York Times Facebook traffic been suppressed as a result?
The New York Times thinks they're above the law.
No, I'm
They
sure.
think they're. I say they. You know.
And you claimed that they were more powerful than the U.S. government. Sorry, there was a trilogy. There was a handful of different outlets. Them, Washington Post, and someone else. Just wild. Anyways, yeah, I hope we all learned something about James O'Keefe and his many foibles, because my oh my, it's pretty wild. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multi Mondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Cern 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.